gui chima la gui do de mi chima la gui do de kwa chimo la gui pensi la le do le ka klo la ma la no ka da di le ka you claim me aurora claim me aurora.
Thank you for joining us for the next hour or two in this episode of Insight Myanmar podcast. In an age of nearly limitless content, we appreciate that you're choosing to take valuable time out of your day to learn more about what is happening in Myanmar. It's vital for this story to be heard by people around the world, and that starts right now with you. We're joined in this episode of Insight Myanmar podcast with Paul Sein Twa, and Paul is an environmentalist and we could say an environmentalist extraordinaire, as we'll learn some truly incredible work that he and his team have been doing in Kotole and environmental preservation, and beyond environmental preservation, also looking at establishing peace between the different local indigenous communities there and in the wider scope of Myanmar, really a microcosm of a kind of optimism that we could hope to see going forward. So we're going to learn all about this project and also about his own life and background in creating this. Paul, thanks for taking the time to sit with us.
Thank you for these opportunities.
So the work you've done at Kisan has been truly remarkable, and we'll get into that in a moment. But I want to start the conversation by learning about you and your background and how that led to this truly incredible organization and really movement that you've started in this part of Myanmar. Can we first learn about who you are and your background growing up?
Yeah, I was growing up along the border, Burma, Thailand. The region is the Salween region in southeast Burma. Yes, since I was in high school, I have witnessed the deforestation happening from the logging kind of activities along the border. That time, the Thai kind of government had a kind of agreement with the military government to sell timbers to Thailand. So then along the border, we have seen massive deforestation, and after a few years, we've seen the big environmental impact, especially the flooding that happened that year. I think around late 90s. I think early 90s. Sorry, it's early 90s, late 80s and early 90s, and it's like yes, kind of struck me, and I think many of the communities living along the river there, that this was never happened before. And it was due to this massive uncontrolled and cutting down of the tree from our forest. So yeah, I was interested, and then I of course that time I didn't know about the environment, the word environment, right? Because the environment is coming from the West, but for us we know that something is not right by destroying our land, our forest, and that we have to do something. Yeah, that is kind of my background, why I'm interested in environment. And later, after I graduated from high school, and then the following that, we remember very clearly that after a few years of logging, then we also have seen the military operation, and the military kind of using the logging road as a kind of way of transporting their military equipments and advancing their troops into our current territories. So that led to the Follow Manep law in early 90s, around 94, 95. Yeah. So it is clear that the destruction of the environment that led to the weakening of our position, our resistant positions against the military dictator, and then kind of becomes a tool for the military, both gaining foreign currency as well as gaining the access and to territorize our areas. And then they also, after we moved to the Thai refugees camp, and we also a few years later we heard about the dam, the hydropower dam project on the Salween River, also being published in the media and newspapers, and you can connect that to what we had experienced in the past, like first logging, then military attacks and control, and then the development project like hydropower dam. So that was why it motivated me and also other colleagues to we come together and form our environmental organization called Kaisan.
The work that you do with Kaisan, it fits at this intersection of so many different values and ecosystems, we can say. You've just laid out many of them there: the resistance to dictatorship, indigenous rights, and the general conservation, and being able to continue to not have forced displacement of communities. All of these things go into the work you're doing. You're not just it's not just two birds with one stone. It's 5 or 6 birds with one stone that we're looking at. A couple of the other elements and aspects that you haven't touched upon that I wonder if we could look at now, beyond this kind of wider scope of looking at peoples and communities and the country and peace as a whole, if we can get even more granular and look at the relationship with the land. And as we talk about what the relationship with the land, on one hand, we're talking the spiritual, and the other hand, we're talking the material, how people live off the land, how they use the bamboo, how they're able to forge a sustainable lifestyle away from modern communities and being able to take what they need from the forest. And so before we get into this macro, which we will next, I wonder if you can sketch out either from personal anecdotes or from those of your friends or what you've seen members of the community in these both spiritual connections with the land and the forest, as well as how people live with the forest and on the forest.
Yes, especially for our current indigenous people, we definitely have a very strong and close connection with our land, as we call it our go, no? Or is our ancestral land or territory, or ancestral domain in some countries they call it. And it is very evident that when we and our people were displaced from our own territories, and that caused so many detrimental to our communities, our people, spiritually, mentally, and physically, because our close connection to our lands, and because also we are mostly agrarian, using the land to grow our food and other needs. So the displacement and also being forced into the refugees camp caused the disconnection, and then the distance and the disconnection had also caused the deterioration of our culture and our practice, and that's also again then started to have also kind of other impacts that our younger generation, our younger people do not learn to kind of practice our traditional knowledge and practices. Then that it also caused the environmental we call it deterioration, and also spiritually, and the spiritual kind of relationship with our land also has been we can call it diminishing. So that is why when we talk about environmental preservation, we need to look for the right way to do it, and how to do it. And that is where we said that in order to do that effectively, we have to reconnect ourselves, rebuild our relationship with our land, our kind of relationship with this we can call it in our like indigenous people's kind of belief, like the supernatural, the god of mountains, rivers, forests, the land, and then because the spirits in our belief, they are the guardians of the land, the forest, the river, the stream, the animals. They are higher than our human being, and our human being is the guardian of those like living things or non-living things in the physical world. So for us is in English we use the word stewardship, right? We are the stewardship of this land and forest. So in order to use, because we have to also use them for our survival or for our communities to thrive. But to do that, we have to have a relationship, a respectful relationship or reciprocal relationship with them, by asking them for the permission to, let's say we wanted to clear a land to grow agriculture, our community have to perform the ritual ceremony to ask for permission from the guardian of the forest that we're going to clear the land, we're going to grow rice here, and we ask for your permission and your blessing, right? So meaning we trying to, in today's term, we say that we are making a contract with our spiritual the god of the land or the spirit of the land, right? And that means we have to follow our agreement that we don't take more than we need. we don't violate the terms we agreed. For example, when we do burning the plot, we make sure that the fire doesn't cross the fire line lines. So it is controlled within the clear land area. And then when after we finish the harvest and things like that, we give thanks to the God of the land, the spirit of the land. We say thank you, and we even along the way from clearing the land to harvesting, there is ceremonies that, for example, we have to apologize to the spirit that because of our burning, because of our clearing, we might have killed the unintended animals, rather, right? So many taboos and so many practices like that. So meaning this is the relationship with the land that we use, right? So when we look at all these things and we say that to do environmental conservation or preservation is to go back to our indigenous way of doing things by reviving our knowledge and our practices. That means we don't need to bring in new things. These things people have been doing for generations, and it is evident that even despite so many challenges, war, displacement, etc., but we still have good forests. We still have animals, wild animals around us. Evidence from our camera trap survey, for example, you can still find animals not very far from our communities. So this is where we kind of live in harmony with nature. And when we introduce this, when we kind of strengthen this kind of belief and practices and values, and it is very powerful to bring together and mobilize people to come together and initiate the Salween Peace Park, for example. No? So this is how we see things and how we do things.
Thank you for that. And I'm wondering, do you feel comfortable sharing any personal anecdote that would be of a spiritual nature of your own relationship to the forest?
Yeah, even though I'm kind of coming from the Christian family, but definitely my root and my community is so much, are the community that live in the forest or dwell in the forest, and that's where we have a close relationship with our forest and land. And then because of as I said, I grew up seeing the destruction of our home, our forest. When I was in high school, that's definitely hurt me personally to see many trees being cut down, and the flash flood and the landslides, and like this, it's kind of striking me a lot, and I still have the memories of that. But the story that my father told me that still kind of remain in my kind of head, like it's just like a kind of a vision, that one day we wanted to kind of have that kind of ideal situation or ideal environment. Like when we were young, there was so much richness and food in the community. You can catch fish from the river. In your kitchen, you have dry fish, you have fish paste, you have so many things. You just go and throw a nest and or do fishing, and it's enough. And then my father also told me that when he was young, he also was a hunter at that time also. He said, like the wild, animals, for example, the cow, the bantang, right? They are in herd, and there are hundreds and thousands of them, and they are migrating from the north, from Gayakarini state, coming down to Thailand, and then cross into current areas, and then going up. So that's a migratory line or routes that's happening, and it is seasonal because of they were going for food, and then also for salt lake, because they are in different region. So this is the we saw in the Salween River basin. We can see those animals, and then but the thing is nowadays, or when developments came, like more diesel boats, more roads, and more things like establishment, then we tend to cut the corridors, right? And those animals are kind of the territories have been fragmented into different parts or different ports like that, so they can no more migrate, right? So we still have those animals that I mentioned, but the thing is we don't have a strategy plan, to also consider the animals, our neighbors, as also part of us, because we human beings, we also need to live, we need to do a living, but animals also need to also survive. They need to eat, they need to travel, it's part of their nature. So that's why our vision is like because of the story that my father told me, and still I have the memory of when we were young, that so much fish in the river, so much animal. You travel along the border, the river, you see the barking deer, you can see the wild boar, the wild pigs, so plenty, and the green trees, the teak trees, and so that's why for us the vision is okay, if we can do it, we collectively do it, we will still continue to develop, to thrive, along with our neighbors, wild animal, forest, trees, like that. So the animals, they can roam freely, and then we still can also receive benefit from them. So that is the dream that also what you call it lead to the Salween Peace Park initiative, that we have a landscape approach, that we communities come together and develop a long-term vision and plan to rebuild the connections with nature, and also to develop, to reconnect the corridors also for wildlife, and for also ecological services that we need in today's situation we are facing, also climate kind of change impacts, right? So the initiative should also address to that also.
It's remarkable as you're talking. The one word that comes in mind with these concerns as you're describing them is harmony. Is that wanting to bring things into harmony, harmony between people, and between groups of people, between people and animals, between people and nature, meaning the water below, the sky above, the trees that are growing on it, the insects that are thriving in the ecological system. And so at a very micro granular level, you're speaking much on the topic of harmony and wanting to create a system that can bring harmony to many of these diverse entities, including, we can say, the invisible spirits that also inhabit, and the gratitude and relationship, social contract with these invisible beings that are believed to be guardians and be living there as well. And so this is a micro level of what you're doing with seeing this sense of harmony. And what I appreciate about what you've shared thus far is that you're very careful in your terminology of using, sometimes you're using words that seem to be hearkening back to being a young person living in this community and just describing what you're seeing, but then you're also referencing, well, in Western circles or in academic circles or in conservation, we actually call it this. And so you're describing something similar in these different spheres and circles, and really beautifully illustrating how the same thing is looked at differently by whether you're a villager who has known nothing but the forest that you live, or whether you're a PhD academic in environmentalism and studying trends around the world and bringing that analysis to Burma. So there's really quite a bit of these overlapping spheres, layers that we can look at the situation and see the micro and the macro in one particular anecdote. And this is all leading to, as we're teasing, this development of the of Kaisan and the Salween Peace Park, and the unprecedented campaign really that you waged, and what resulted in what you were able to build and create. And so let's go into that personal story now. And you're describing how at this time you're still a young person, you're having stories from your father talk about the intergenerationally the land that you live, and concerns that you're seeing with the flash flooding, and but you don't really know where this fits into these wider narratives, but you want to do something about it, especially when you see that there's this double whammy of these of local environments being destroyed, of disharmony being created, of people's suffering, and the military benefiting from all of that, the military regime being the instigator and then the primary benefactor of all of this destruction and disharmony that is taking place. And so bring us back to those early days of your life when these concepts started to come, and how you then went from being a passive observer or someone expressing concern to actually starting to move to take action, which would then develop in this unprecedented peace park.
When we start our environmental campaign or our environmentalism or environmental activism, it is kind of usually misunderstood by people or by people in the communities because of the environmental conservation usually comes from the West, the Western kind of concept or kind of philosophy. That we are tree huggers, we are prohibiting the cutting down of trees for agriculture, like that. So for people, you say they know we people resist to that because of they are saying that we were going to like stop people doing tongya. No, it's ku in our language. We call it ku, or rotational farming, because rotational farming is a type of uplander agricultural system. Right? So this actually rotational farming agriculture is a very primitive agriculture system, and it is full of knowledge. It is full of what do you call it? Detailed, practices, but it is very easy to misunderstood, by Western academics and this and that. So we have to try to explain to community. No, we are not against the ku system or the rotational farming system, because as I said earlier, we have to take from nature in order to survive, but at the same time we have to also have to give back. We also have to maintain our reciprocal relationship, right? So we have in our current elders kind of teaching or poems like Odikato le onyakato Odikato le onyakato kui, no? So meaning when we want to eat frog, we have to also take care of the habitat, like the rocks, the ecosystems. And if we want to eat fish, we also have to take care of their pool or their So this is like our duty, as someone who take from nature. So this is the our philosophy in our work. So we use that because actually our indigenous people knowledge, practices, their moral, their values, everything nowadays we can see or we can take from our poems, sort of our oral kind of the teaching. So that is very kind of I the more I learn the oral teaching and poems, there are so much that teaches how we do things today also, and how we can relate to the new development linked to the global movement, like climate change, and what's biodiversity conservation or so that. So that's where we have to go back. So to our root, as I said, and we have to learn from our elders, our knowledge holders, right? And they're trying to interpret that into the current situation. So when we introduce that, when we teach that, when we share that, when we bring people to share this knowledge and practice it, it's part of the community, self-strengthening, self-empowerment, but we have to facilitate. So this way, then the people started to learn, Kay-san or Paul or my colleagues, they are not coming to stop us from practicing our traditional way of agriculture, right? So this is where we kind of get more people participation, and we also build up more community ownership in environmental management, natural resource management, for example, like that. No? So we're trying to support communities kind of self-identified issues, problems, and solutions, like supporting them to establish the community forests, their kind of fish conservation zones, like the small activities that strengthen the community to maintain their kind of relationship with the environment, the forest, the land, right? And then we also support them to revitalize their core system, their customary land systems and governance systems. Like, in another hand, we also work with the KNU to also have the land policy that recognize the customary tenure, right? So that means we empower community to like revitalize their old systems, and in places where they no more have the system like that, then they can develop a new ones that also still like apply the rule and regulations or the principles. So we have been doing that for many years, and then I think this is the things that also it's also like impressed our current leaders, the KNU leaders, especially in the district level, because of the in our community, like work, we have to build relationship. We have to engage the leaders from different levels, and they kind of see the benefits, not just from like environmentally, but politically and also socially. So that's where like the leaders kind of, we can say in a simple term, that they have trust in our work, and they have trust also in the communities, also their intention to also like sustainably use and manage the land and the environment and natural resources. So this kind of it's what we call it, the foundation that we have built since we kind of initiated the community project, we can say in 2004, in our work in Mudra, in 5th Brigade areas. So yeah, and political also situation changed, and we have the the Korean National Union had a bilateral ceasefire agreement in early 2012, 2012, right, in January. Then you can see there's a new kind of political landscape. The conflict and the relationship dynamics change also significantly when they initiated that. And then like people in our current areas, especially in the Mudra district, for many decades, they have been facing the atrocities, the human rights violation, the displacements, you name all those violations. They have experienced, they have been, and then they still have so many military bases and camps in and near their territories, right? That when we had the work in the area, we have around 80 army camps, military army camps. I mean, that is like 83 or something.
Wow.
before and during the ceasefire time. So many. And especially when they build a road from north to south, east to west, so many camps along the roads. So the situation changed, the political situation changed because of the ceasefire, and we are facing of course the direct kind of attacks, confrontation like that has decreased, but there are others threat like the military trying to improve the road, and then there are other proposal like more mining concessions are being planned, new towns and hydropower dams. These are like new threats. We know that it's been in the past, but because of active war, they could not implement those things, right? And we've been also opposing the dams and other extractive activities in our area anyway. But because of the ceasefire, it's changed their kind of dynamics, and then we are facing that, and at the same time, we say that time the government trying to say that okay, we are doing development for peace, right? And then for us we definitely don't agree with that. There is no development for peace. So that's where like the KNU leaders in the district, they found that how do we kind of counter the fake, the artificial kind of initiatives that will harm us and will kind of what do you call it how do you call it those developments proposals that not coming from or not resonating or reflecting the real needs of the people. How can we counter that narratives? How can we counter the proposal? Right. So we need to have something, right? So then the leaders invite us, and we have meetings, we discuss, and later the concepts of the peace paths kind of came up, right? That integrate the various aspects into the Peace Park initiative, right? So that's why we have the peace there. We have the park, is the concept of conservation, and then we have the Salween. The Salween is a well-known international rivers, right? So we're trying to connect those things and define what we wanted to achieve, right? Trying to kind of solicit the different ideas, and then had to connect our movements because we have political movements to achieve our self-determination, right? And our self-determination right here is politically and also for the indigenous people as well.
Yeah.
The indigenous peoples, should have the right to their land, their natural resources, then should be able to continue to practice their indigenous knowledge and systems. And also then when we talk about peace, we have to also define what is peace also. So we link the peace with self-determination, because we don't have peace because our right to self-determination is being violated, right? We have to connect peace with that, and then we have to also define it that also in the very simple way, so that our community to understand self-determination means we have the right to govern our own territories, right? We have the right to develop our territories in line with our culture, in line with our values.
Sure.
So we link that. And then when we talk about environment conservation, we also define it in a way that based on our indigenous way, based on meaning based on our indigenous way. It's not only to reject the Western science kind of way, but we trying to use the concept of looking at environmental conservation with the two eyes, right? The science and also the Western science or the indigenous science, two things together that we have to kind of work together, because there are new technologies that will also benefit us, that we can use to integrate into our system also. So we don't right away reject that, no? And then all of this also interconnected with our culture. So the culture aspect is the things that will kind of what do you call it, the backbones that bring the initiative together, bind it together, like peace and self-determination, environmental integrity, and our cultural survival. So these three things have to interconnected. So this we build the Peace Park initiative.
It's remarkable how many threads are coming together in those stories, and threads that are not just looking at one community against another. I think a simplistic way to look at the problems that are there and what you've tried to do with them is looking at the ethnic people versus the Bamar military and just trying to have some kind of protection for those local peoples against military incursion. Certainly that's part of it, but there's so many other elements that you've described of just simply the kind of arrangements and agreements you've had to make with local farmers that themselves see you as a potential threat before they get to know you better, of feeling that you're if you're an environmentalist, then you must not really see our job living off the land as something that is integrated into an environmental system, but you're actually, no, this is going to the harmony of all things that you're promoting, as well as the KNU, which is an ethnic resistance organization, militarized and armed, that I think from an outsider's point of view can see where obvious clashes would be. But again, with this approach and harmony that you have in trying to find different, really extraordinary ways that so many different peoples and non-peoples can come together and try to enjoy and live in and nurture a collective sense of harmony, and showing how it's in everyone's best interest, maybe not the militaries who just want to exploit everything for yet more greed and power and control and suffering, but certainly many others, that there is an alignment. And you've achieved something that I think that in other more developed countries that they haven't really found their own way yet, to be able to bring so many different layers and groups together and show how there could be an integration that serves all of these different interests and needs of different communities and peoples, and again, non-peoples, to operate in such a way that it's a win-win, and it's a massive ecological system that everyone has a place in, and that also connects to your past. And that's where I also want to go with, in that long description that you just shared, one of the things I bookmarked that I wanted to come back to, I found very interesting, in referencing the work that you're doing in the present and the future. You very often reference your particular family tree, as well as the more general ancestry, Karen ancestry, that you're calling upon, and that is guiding what you're trying to create as a preservation of that past and peoples and language and culture that's contained within it. And one of the things you said that I really resounded in my mind was you would reference these poems that these poems that had a place in your childhood and in stories that were told and passed down, and how these poems held this knowledge that guided what you were doing forward. And I wonder if there are any poems that come to mind now that you might be able to share with us. And
yes. Thank you. There are so many poems. And if it related to the let me think of an example. If we think of the something that related to climate change impact, or the kind of natural disaster, and kind of preparedness for risk reduction, or if we talk about mitigation, things like that. We have so many poems, and for example, regard to the kind of how current people should prepare themselves so that they can overcome the kind of external or natural disasters. Like, for example, the elders said that we have to grow varieties of crops, include tubers, not just the fruit. We have to grow also the crops that have the roots and tubers, like this. So if we have so many kinds, even if we have crops failure can also mean from changes of weather and climate change impact, we still can eat others. Right? So that's definitely a lot in our poems like that. And when we talk about wildlife conservation, we have so many, like poems that tell us not to kill, not to, destroy them, because those animals represent the different values. And for example, don't kill this bird because this is a sign of peace.
Right.
This is a sign of the good harvest, or the spirit of the rice, right? Also, some kinds of wild animals, they are also bringing back the prosperity, right? And for example, like tigers, of course, from the conservationist perspective, they are important species also. That when you have tigers, meaning you need to have good forest,
Sure. Yeah.
and you need to have lots of prey for tiger to survive, right? But for us, for indigenous people, we have poems, we have things like that talk about when we see the tiger near our village, or when we see the tiger kill the domestic animals, that's a sign of something's going wrong in our village.
Oh, I see.
So this is kind of related to, moral, thing, and then also it's a sign of judgment, something like you need to take action. You need to, find out and make sure that, you kind of resolve something happen in the village. So this is what we learn. I personally learned, and then one poem that really stick to my head for a long time already. Like we said, it said, while other rule, their country with what they call it, they say money, no? They use money, or they develop the the economy, no?
Yeah.
Korean will rule the country by rice. So that is simple, but I relate that, reference that to the current situation, and the movement that people build around the globe. The nearest term that I can relate is the food sovereignty, right? So the main thing is we have enough food for everyone, right? We don't look at how many economic growth, how many GDP, how we make progress with GDP thing, but we look at how much we harvest from the land.
Yeah.
And then that food sovereignty, it's linked to environment, linked to our culture, linked to the market, everything. And the other one is that, people are ruled by law, with law. Korean people ruled by poems. So that means poems is, it's like our Bible, our indigenous people's Bible, our law book. So that's why our initiative is also now to kind of trying to document the poems, right? That will teach us how we do the right thing, right? In terms of water management, forest management, land management, and other things that current people in their daily lives, in their social life, their moral, the like a judicial, everything we have to, relate back to our poems.
Right, that's really wonderful. You described how the Salween Peace Park, the ideology behind what formed it and what the aspirations were, the people that came together, what you were trying to do based on your understanding of the problems of a particular region where you're personally from, as well as where these fit into wider issues of conservation and all of this linking back to harmony. I think we haven't yet brought listeners an understanding of what the Peace Park actually is now in tangible terms and practical terms, what region it covers, how it operates.
The Peace Park, the core things of the Peace Park is the governance, right? We without the governance, like put in place and functioning, it will be like a paper park or I don't know, how do you use the word, tiger paper or paper tiger or that kind of term, right? So many of them around the world, right?
Right.
So that is the governance of it. We through the consultation, of course the KNU definitely led the process, and then the KSAN is supporting that, facilitating that. So and I want to also clarify that the Salween Peace Park is not just KSAN. It is a collaboration with the KNU, with the local communities, indigenous leaders, and other CSO as well, coming together. So we bring together, the a landscape of more than 5,000 square kilometers, right? I think 5,400 or 5,600 now, I think, square kilometers. This is a huge area. And then we demarcated, or trying to draw the maps of the ancestral territories. So we have more than now, I think 300 or something within the Peace Park. So those are the indigenous, people's core, customary territory, and that's where we wanted to kind of base, our Peace Park governance based on that. And then at the same time, we also have the other area that are under the administration of the KNU, like for example, the reserved forest, you have wildlife sanctuaries, right, and so on. So we're trying to put that together, connect that together, and then we have to build a governance system that represent and respond to the needs of these different land, we call it unit or territories and categories also. So we build a hybrid system. We have the KNU representatives, we have the indigenous people representatives that coming from the, as I explained to you before, that from the core. But the core one is we don't go to represent each core like that, but we kind of group it into more like a township and the village tract kind of system as well, right? So that we also integrating the KNU administrative system with our indigenous also. Of course, some area overlapping, or crossing the border of the districts and not the districts, so township and village tracts. So this is, the way we kind of base our constituencies like that from the village tract level, right? And then we have representatives from the community coming from the village tract, and then we have also representatives from the civil society. So this is how we kind of build the governance. So and then we also have the General Assembly, right? The General Assembly is the highest decision-making body, and the second highest is the executive committee of the Peace Park. So this is what we kind of trying to do, and then through these bodies or organs we regularly meet every year, and then the executive committee meet every 3 months or something like that, or at least quarterly if situations are not good. So we discuss, we convene, and then we make decision, and then we have the executive committee to implement that decisions through forming the different working groups to implement on the culture, on the land, on the conservation, on women and youth, this kind of through this system. So and through this working group and systems, or like what they call it, working group, it's also, we also link it with the KNU, relevant departments, if related to wildlife and related to our forest, and then we have to work closely with the KNU Forestry Department. Remember, in the structure, the KNU Forestry Department representatives also sit there.
Right.
So we're trying to build a collaboration in the systems, in the governance system, that way. So it's kind of not to overshadow or take control of over the KNU, but more like a what you call it, working together in that way. And then the usually our leader, one leader in Mutro usually give the example like the KNU probably the upper part of the head, and the Peace Park is the jaw.
Right.
So it's part of the whole, like the head. So this is how we kind of operate like that. So it create a check and balance, and it create like a sort of like the communication, better communication. And then there are so many things that also kind of benefit the KNU administration because of like opening up the space for communities to actively engage and actively like also participate in the decision making. So that is what happening now in the Peace Park. Like we have as I said, the General Assembly lay down the they say that the strategies. I mean, we don't use the word strategy, of course, in the assembly, because strategy is very vague, bro. But we talk about what should be done, what are the priorities. So we set up. So definitely we have like in terms of our work program, we group it into like a cultural group, and that cultural group, working group, is headed by the youth group to like do documentation, do the like promoting cultural kind of knowledge, like culture school we have, trying to learn how to play traditional music and make traditional music instruments like that, and the women group weaving, making threads, this kind of thing. Because of war and displacement, people, less and less people, are interested or learn how to, do the weaving.
Yeah, sure.
And especially the traditional patterns, like that. So we trying to also revitalize that, right? And then we also have a program in terms of environment management and conservation. We work with the forest department to develop their kind of rural regulations, and trying to also set up the community rangers to monitor, the forest, especially along the Salween River, because of the border, easy for outsiders to come in and do illegal activities like cutting the trees, doing the poaching, and so on like that. So communities rangers, their role to do regular patrolling and reporting back to the Peace Park committee and to the KNU Forest Department. And then from time to time we organize a meeting to share the result of our forest management, our monitoring of the forest like that. And then definitely we trying to encourage people to develop better forest management systems, and they're also trying to make sure that we also manage and control unregulated forest fire. So that is also part of our Peace Park kind of action plan. So we didn't claim that we have done a lot on that, but when we see the satellite image, this year especially, from when we had our meeting with the Thai counterparts this side, they show that our Peace Park looks green, very little few hotspot, but on this side and other areas, a lot of red dots and spots. So that show that our effort, our initiatives do kind of have an impact. And even though we have our agriculture system where we need to burn also like that, despite we having that, we don't have big problem with that. So you can see the benefit that have a larger at a larger scale when we discuss about the transboundary haze issues, right? It's not just for us, it's also benefit Thailand, people in Thailand, right? So it seems that we need to build also better collaboration in the future. So so we have like a group like that, and women groups. Of course, women that we wanted to promote women participation, women leadership in conservation, women leadership in kind of making decision about how to develop, our communities like that. And we also have a working group on the really the self-determination kind of category, trying to look into how do we help strengthen our governance, our KNU governance, how to promote the good governance and public administration. For example, easy like things like having our village name in Quran, right? And then also in terms of doing the kind of identification card, that kind of thing that we also plan and work with the KNU to kind of better have a proper registration like that. So many things. I'm trying to explain to you that what the Peace Park is doing now. So, but under the three pillars, as I mentioned before, under this peace and self-determination, under the environmental conservation, and under the cultural survival pillars, that these kind of activities are linking to that.
Right. So this is really remarkable an example of democracy in action, and really a profound way of bringing together all these actors to engage different communities, different voices, understand what those needs are, and have a place to talk about them, to decide upon them, a body to then make a decision, enact that decision, and then work with all regional partners of all different directions. I think the one major player in all of this that's been left out in the conversation so far is, of course, the Burmese military. And as we know, the Burmese military is they are certainly not democratic, and they are certainly not humane. And so the question comes to me as you're describing this, as you're describing these partnerships that you're developing with really an impressive, diverse array of actors, of people that you're bringing to the table, bringing to the fold, making it see how it's also a win-win for them. So they're seeing they have a stake in the success of this going forward, that it continues to be a win-win for all these parties. And yet, when it comes to the military, it's hard to see how they're going to even think of having a stake at the table, let alone how they would honor whatever agreements were come, let alone if they weren't at the table, how this whole body could proceed in their own way with honoring different agreements and relationships and actions going forward, how the military is going to respect any of that. They're going to come in and take what they want, build roads where they want, steal natural resources as they want, use human labor, airstrikes, the whole terrible thing that we all know. And so through the development of many years and decades of the Salween Peace Park, I'm wondering where, especially since you have spoken so eloquently of bringing all of these, I'd say, unlikely partners to the table and to the fold, and showing them how it's in their interest to be a part of what you're building, you have this one very bad actor that is sitting outside of all of that.
Very good question. That you're correct. We need to address the elephant in the room.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. That's why we need the peace park in the first place, right? As I explained before, that in order to counter, the threats, challenges, not just to kind of push back, but also offer alternatives or way forwards, right? That's the ideas of the peace park. So we say we don't want this, we don't want that, but we also say this is what we want, this is what we are doing. Right? So first is like in order to kind of push back the bad actor, then definitely we need to build our resilience, our resilience, our resistance, so that we don't really fall into their traps, fall into their fake solutions, right? So this is part of the Salween Peace Park movement, like building grassroots movement in joining this, and then we resist, the development that are not from our communities, not determined by our communities. We work with the KNU to make sure that they stick to the policies, they stick to the principles. And as much as possible, resistance here means also defending, right? Defending, we don't have arms, we don't have that, but that's a KNU's role. So how do we also improve the defending of our territories, So there are many other ways that we look at the security from our perspective. Like as I said, we don't build a road that will enable our enemies to use against them, for example, right? We don't kill the rivers that will have a bad impact on the community. Of course, some area, like through the gold mining, things like that happen, but we have to limit the impact, because the KNU need the income in order to kind of buy weapons and defend and protect the people. So, and if not necessary, then we cannot say no. So even those things that happen in small part of that is that we do have plan. When the political situation improves, we need to rehabilitate that. So the defending, the resistance, and then we have to also look broader than just opposing. Defending is also part of the defending our environment destruction also, right? Not just the people, right?
Yeah.
So this is part of what we are doing internally in the communities, and then at a national scale, we have to build alliances. We have to build networks, and then so that we also strengthen our kind of defending and our resistance and resilience, and that not just other national or other indigenous or ethnic groups, but our international kind of partners and like-minded groups. That's where we create this park, is that to bring into different partners, not just on one issues. In the past, before we had the Peace Park, we definitely organized ourselves against the building of the Haji Dam, right? But that's only the river and the dam. We don't have much on other issues like indigenous people's rights. We don't have about the land and so on. So when we built the Peace Park, we have opened up more aspects of our movement and trying to bring in more partners that focus on other sectors or area. They're on agriculture, on wildlife, biodiversity conservation. We kind of open up spaces where other international partners can also join and help us. So I want to focus on the international global alliance. That why we do that, because we said that one is that the bad guy, they also do not work alone.
That's true.
They have the support.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
With all their support, the external support, they can also do things, right? So that's why our job is to tell who is the right person to support and or to work with. So this is our campaign that we've been doing, right? And in order to do that, we have to use the existing international or UN mechanisms, in terms of indigenous people's rights, in terms of the free and prior informed consent tools, the consultation kind of things like that, the protocols and standards and like that. We have to use all of them, right, to make sure that people who are engaging with the bad actors, follow that, right? And that, in a way, it's basically also have an impact, on the bad guy also, because they cannot grab our land easily.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
Even they wanted to get a conservation grant because of they wanted to take away our land and show that this is how we protect our forest. They cannot claim they want to claim some campo credits or something like that, right? They cannot do it because of we are trying to show that these lands belong to our indigenous and local communities, and we have the initiative to do that, right? So if you have to support and work to kind of protect this forest cover or this rainforest or something like that, then they have to work with us, right? And this is just an example of what I'm trying to say. So that meaning the international community groups know who are the real actors, who are the groups that are doing good work. So that in a way like trying to reduce their supporters,
Mm-hmm.
like that. And we also do campaign. It's also meaning we also trying to not to let them or just use our space at the international level as well. So we're trying to take our own space to make sure that the bad guys don't continue to do the bad things in our territories. So we kind of combine different strategies like that. And then we've seen that that also changed the how the international community see and understand the situation in Burma more. We can say better now that there's a tendency that we will receive more recognition of our work. Not just the indigenous people, but the KNUs also. We also receive the recognition as a legitimate governance actor, right? So you are right that definitely we cannot control the space because of the space mean the airspace. The threats coming from the airspace is enormous and very threatening, and we have to really adapt to that. But it is clear that they cannot win by doing that, because the importance is now our areas, our on the ground situation. The KNU can control more now. So for us is how do we kind of increase, how do we kind of reach out to the area that been once under the military control,
right?
In terms of reaching out to communities and other conservation work.
One of the things that caught my ear in your answer was speaking about the close coordination and relationship with the KNU, and as the KNU being the governing body in this region, in this community, that what you're doing is in concert with them. You've made a metaphor of the human body in terms of the head and the rest of the body being as how the KNU and Kaisan or Salween Park relate to each other in terms of how it's active and engaged within the community, and then the bad actor, the elephant in the room, the interloper of the military being the one that always the bully really on the block, being have to various mechanisms and strategies to try to keep it at bay. And you've also referenced how your work in the park is actually it serves as this to protect the park. It then serves as this wider deterrent for bad behavior by the bad actor, and being able to call up different mechanisms and protocols and formalities to resist further military incursion to protect the park, which is actually protecting the people and the wider landscape as well, which is just brilliant. But in listening to this explanation, it also brings up, if we go from this micro to the greater macro and to the present moment, it does bring up these questions that are very prevalent right now of federalism, and federalism on one hand and factionalism on the other, and what the relationship is of the potentiality of balkanization and of fractionalization taking place within Myanmar, and on the one hand, and then of the federal democracy that's trying to be built. And so it's very interesting to look at this question in contrast with the work that you're doing in a regional way with KNU, with the bully and the elephant of the military being intentionally excluded in that relationship, and very rightly so. But it does bring up questions of a wider federal democracy structure that would happen within Myanmar, and what those wider relationships would look like. And in one way, we might have an example to point back to of the transition period, where the transition period, though not perfect, did have a better actor, a slightly more sympathetic actor in the nature of NLD, which was never in full control, we should say, but was nominally in some position of decision making, however tenuous and precarious that was. And so what this makes me think about is looking at, okay, so you have a relationship with a regional actor, the KNU. You have you're forming somewhat of a resistance and protection against the very bad actor of the military. But then what I'm wondering is, when the NLD came to power, what changes, if any, did that bring? Were there, in expanding this democratic structure, this local democratic structure that you've been endeavoring and striving to build, and then having a bigger semi-democratic structure in Naypyidaw and Yangon, were there attempts to connect with them, to coordinate beyond the KNU and coordinate with their central authority into how this how decision-making bodies could start to work, and the relationships between local, regional, and national actors? That's one part of the question. The other part of the question would be going forward and looking at not just what happened during that transition period, but in the possibility of a federal democracy happening in post-military Myanmar. Where do you, and you've spoken about self-determination and the power and the importance of indigenous people to have self-determination in their communities going forward. Where do you see the kind of wider collaboration or coordination that the park could have beyond the KNU with an overall structure of the country, or not?
Yeah, definitely, like during we can say the opening time, or we call it the peace process time, or something like that. That time, definitely we have more like a better space, or I don't know how to use a better space, or more like an open space for us to engage, at different levels, including the national, the parliamentary kind of level. Engaging with political parties, all these things, and including also the peace process through the KNU, the ethnic actors. So when we started that the peace park, initiatives and activities along the way, we're trying to demonstrate, how federal look, the real federal look like.
Right.
It is not like something that we talk about as a dream. It is coming from the communities. Right. We show how we managed our land, and we're trying to demystify the narrative that indigenous people are the destroyers of the forest. Right. We show very clear example. We trying to make sure that the decision and politicians understand that. And then we trying to also use our voice to kind of inform the peace process, that when we talk about peace, is meaning the real peace. The real peace is like what we do in the peace park. Where do you recognize the things that we want in the peace process, or at the Naypyidaw, right? Like, for example, the land policy, the land rights, like that. This going opposite of what we want, right? Yeah. So it's a pity, actually. Like during the NLD times, they didn't understand. We can say they definitely have the very centralized mindset. They have a very kind of Burmanization kind of mindset, that they have everything, and then they will consider what to give to us. Right? So this is not the federal kind of what do you call it, a mindset that federal means when you build a federal system, it means that you have to recognize people's willingness to come together and cooperate, right? Yeah. So it is not understood by the military or by the NLD. But then came a military coup. So the situation changed. So our effort is to continue with our initiatives,
Mm-hmm.
but our initiatives now have to also adapt to the political changes, right?
Right.
And then we have to also prove that what we believe and what we trying to do is really bearing fruits.
Mm-hmm.
No? So I would like to kind of give the what do you call it my perspectives on their countering the narratives of Burma will be like we become balkanization,
Mm-hmm.
factionalism, all the things like that, quite negative.
Mm-hmm.
But from my perspective, when we talk about environment, we don't have a boundary. We don't have a boundary. The rivers flow through
Yeah.
different countries,
Yeah.
different communities.
Yeah.
When we talk about the haze issue that we are facing now, it does not only come from one area. It can come from other area, and then create problems, especially now in northern Thailand. And the environmental kind of conservation to be effective, it is also to kind of build like a collaboration
Mm-hmm.
and cooperation with other actors
Mm-hmm.
or other like territories,
Mm-hmm.
right? For the Salween Peace Park, we don't think that it will be enough just to conserve this 5,000 something square kilometers,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to also work with other neighboring communities or territories that are connected to our territory, and even on Thai side,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as I said earlier, by doing conservation on our side, also contribute, to the benefit of the other community in Thailand.
Right.
So we need to kind of recognize, also we talk about environmental management or conservation. We have to we cannot just talk about environmental conservation without recognizing the human rights of the people who are living
Yeah.
in that territory.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where we said that we have to first recognize the rights of the indigenous people and local communities, and that's where we talk about human right based approach to conservation. This is exactly what the Peace Park is doing. And then by recognizing our rights, and then by holding hand with other communities, we can kind of through building a contract or MOU, through the joint effort and kind of activities,
Mm-hmm.
we can achieve more, right? So this is applied the same with the the federal system that we are talking about. In the past, we talk about building the federal, something that we talk about the principle, the policies, and we know very well that the military and the dominant Burman society wouldn't kind of buy into that
Mm-hmm.
concept, right? So now, after the military coup, we talk about building federal from below.
Mm-hmm.
So the focus is on building the federal unit first, right? And then other ethnic groups also, like Karenni, also wanted to build a federal unit also first. Then if we come together, if we join together, we can increase the number. And we already seen, ethnic people wanted to, join together. because the understanding is that if there is only one piece in Karen, but there is no piece in Karenni, that won't work also, because we are connected, like environment.
Yeah.
If we take care of our forest in our community, but other communities have no tree left, and then they will come to our.
Sure.
So this is a basic principle that I would say environmental conservation and the federal is very relevant, right? So we have to kind of understand that and link our movement to that. So when we talk about building the federal unit in our areas, in our area Mikaran, and of course the KNU is the leading body. We also want the KNU and the people who are who have the responsibility to draft the constitution, and of course it should be open process. That also, this kind of initiative like Peace Park should be also recognized in the constitution, but not specific for the Peace Park, but we should have a provision that recognize the right of the indigenous people.
Sure.
Right. And then this way, we even in the transition and in the democratic the federal democratic system, this kind of activities can scale up and grow, right? Even we have a federal system for our environment kind of work, we have to also work with other ethnic groups. As I said, the Karenni is also doing something, to also manage and conserve the environment, and we also have to, build our relationship and have a joint also effort. So we have to do like that in order to achieve the kind of bigger impacts.
You reference how during the transition period, the relations that you had with the NLD were not as positive as you would have hoped for, that there was still a feeling of the need for central authority, which resulted in less receptive qualities of listening to regional actors and wanting to work with them from ground up solutions as you're really prioritizing working on. And you also reference the Burmanization, and this is, you're not the first person to note that although far less violent and tyrannical, the NLD was largely made of Bamar politicians and leaders, and was not so sensitive to non-Bamar issues as it could have been during that time, which is something that's been changing dramatically over the past few years since the coup. That's been one, at least positive silver lining of how bad these last few years have been, is greater interethnic harmony. But you do reference the Burmanization policies they had in addition to the kind of centrally focused governance that they were looking for. And again, your Peace Park is not simply a park for preservation and supporting of indigenous communities. It is that, but it's also, as you've rather ingeniously found a way to navigate, it's doing that at a local level, and then at a higher level, those same actions are resounding in profoundly different ways when it comes to human rights and politics of governing systems and everything else, which is really just amazing to hear as you tell it, how these all come together. But I'm wondering, going forward, how you see potential Burmanization issues in new structures that are being created. This is, of course, hypothetical, but what's not hypothetical, what we can talk about, is the NUG. And again, it's always a bit careful in talking about the NUG, because I think one of the challenges that's come in criticisms the NUG has received is not acknowledging the tremendously difficult situations they're in. They're a wartime governing body that is not themselves in safety, and that has very limited power under their control and what they're able to accomplish. So with all those normal disclaimers that this should not be looked at as a normal governing body in normal situations by any means, with those disclaimers in place, looking at how the NUG may have differed from the NLD in what it is and what it's trying to do, and what optimism or what concerns that gives you going forward in the type of governing structure that can exist in Myanmar after this military is hopefully dissolved.
I think I would like to explain a little bit more during the NLD time. I think that is a pity because of the military coup had happened. Otherwise, I think if we continue to have kind of more time and space,
right.
I think that would have also make
Sure.
headway into the policies, because when the Peace Park had received the sort of international award and recognition from the UNDP, the Equator Prize, this is quite significant. Like in Burma, this is the first one, and it is in conflict-affected areas, right? Then I think that recognition also, had a big impact, in the I believe it's had a big impact in the policy arena, that, the communities, the current people can do this kind of thing. And what about the government? Where's your policy? And then, remember, as I said, the government are signatory to also international, convention, and they sign up that they have commitment to implement those things, right? So then it is a reflection. It is questions thrown at them that they need to answer, right? And I think they had some increasing interest from the NLD MPs, wanting to come and visit and wanting to learn, and also other ethnic friends who is also, would like to come. And I think one group came from Nagaland, right?
Oh, that's great.
Before the coup.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of early time of COVID.
Yeah.
The bad thing is we have COVID and the coup. Right? Otherwise, we have more, we call interactions with our ethnic brothers and sisters.
Right. Yeah.
And that we also provide a more learning space for the political parties to learn about,
right.
The work we are doing, right? And I said, I don't say the black and white, about what MLD see us, but there is this increased kind of understanding, or start to understand, or started to look into the initiative, and we had a chance to also exhibit our work in Yangon. I didn't remember exact place that we had. I mean, we trying to exhibit photos, stories, like that.
Right.
And then started to capture some the urban people's interest in in our region, in the jungle. So as I said, after military coup, definitely there's a new political landscapes, more and new, emerging actors, like NUG, NUCC, and then then now the ethnic groups are developing their own governance system, like the Karini, and Chin. So, the thing is that in order to kind of influence change, definitely we need to have proof. We need to show, we need to demonstrate what it is like, what is working, what is not working, right? If we can have more of this, I think that it is easy to influence, right? And then I don't put the emphasis on what the NUG should do. I put more emphasis on what our ethnic people should do and what the KNU should do. Together, we can shape the future. because the NUG cannot do things alone without the support and collaboration with the NA people. Because we have the territories, we have the base, we have the communities, right? So this is what we said that in the interim time we have to, recognize, we have to address, the issues at hand, and trying to also think about developing the constitution, the policies, the law that will govern, will address the injustices, the old system that are oppressive, exploitative, to the new one that are more like fair and more to do more justice to, or provide justice to people, right? So this is the time for us to kind of show that, right? And by having these kind of initiatives across the countries, definitely we can influence at least in terms of the land policies at the federal unit level, at the federal level, right? Because we don't know which one will come first, but at least, as I said, building from the ground up, we should have on the ground first.
Right. Yeah. We spoke with your colleague and friend, Ashley South, the other day. During his conversation, he expressed during one extended comment his concern on climate change and how climate change, the inevitability of climate change in Myanmar, and the impact that it would have on communities, politics, everything going forward, that this has to be a fundamental way that we look at the ongoing crisis in Myanmar and how it gets developed and what goes next. And so I'd be remiss if, in speaking to a local environmentalist, I didn't ask you your thoughts on where climate change fits into this whole argument, and what and in the work that you're doing with local environments and communities, what your concerns for climate change are, and how you're responding to it.
Yes, definitely. For us, we see the linkages, or clear linkages between the climate change and the conflict, right?
I see.
Yeah. So it's inseparable, right? So if we can address that, then I think that the benefit is a lot not there to achieve. If we don't address that together, because of conflict, create more what they call it, the environmental problems, in a way, because of displacement, because of uncontrollable natural resource exploitation, through the extractive activities. And then there, even the military, for example, like the rare earth mining, in northern Burma is a very concerning issue now.
Absolutely.
Right? And gold mining and minings and logging is happening in the area where we say that basically no man's kind of control area like that, because of, so this is very concerning, right? So we would like to let the international communities understand that, so they need to, in order to kind of bring Burma out of, this conflict crisis, and then that link to the climate crisis is through the climate change action, climate action, the support, the funding, the technical aspect of that. So that is why we're trying to link. And then coming from a climate change perspective, it is very relevant for the international community because their commitment to do that, right? If they don't do that earlier, then we have to imagine how I call it, huge is the impact that people will suffer, right? Because it is a circle, right? It is a circle.
Yeah, it's all connected.
And then and I think it's quite concerning for countries in Europe, right? In the West, that because of climate change impact and people are migrating, right? And then people are coming to their countries as a kind of learned from different interventions. So then definitely the good things to do is to engage with engage with ethnic governance body in order to address the climate change issue, at the same time the conflict issues.
Yeah.
And for us, definitely ending the conflict as early as possible is the best way.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, I want to thank you so much for your time here. We've talked for 2 hours, and it's just absolutely flown by. It's felt like a couple of minutes, and I think we could easily go 2 hours longer. You have so much to share, and it's so fascinating, the implications of what you're doing, and also that I think we're all a bit starved on this platform for a bit of good news.
Yeah, we would like to kind of emphasize on the the opportunities that we have, even we are in this really difficult political crisis situation. That we have opportunities, and then the opportunity is that we still have the we say that I don't know how to use the right word, assets, or we have the social capital, we have the political capitals to really shape the future of of country. So for me, it is the asset, a capital. The capital that we have is the indigenous peoples. We have the knowledge. We have the the practice, the good practices, and we also have the our natural asset. The good, healthy environment. So we have to use this, and then trying to strengthen our movements, because there are many movements, but by strengthening our movement that come from the people, from the environment kind of field, and link into the other political movements, I think we can achieve bigger impact. Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. As regular listeners are aware, we often remind our audience about our nonprofit mission, Better Burma, at the end of a show. Truth be told, fundraising is hard work, and I can personally attest to the fact that it's really no fun to keep asking for contributions. Yet, the situation on the ground now in Myanmar is so distressing that we continue to do so on behalf of the Burmese people. What is most helpful at this time are recurring donations, which help alleviate both the stress and time involved in fundraising. If you are able to pledge a certain amount per month, our team can plan around having at least a consistent minimum amount to work within each month. If you would like to join in our mission to support those in Myanmar who are being impacted by the military coup, we welcome your contribution in any form, currency, or transfer method. Your donation will go on to support a wide range of humanitarian and media missions, aiding those local communities who need it most. Donations are directed to such causes as the Civil Disobedience Movement, CDM, families of deceased victims, internally displaced person IDP camps, food for impoverished communities, military defection campaigns, undercover journalists, refugee camps, monasteries and nunneries, education initiatives, the purchasing of protective equipment and medical supplies, COVID relief, and more. We also make sure that our donation fund supports a diverse range of religious and ethnic groups across the country. We invite you to visit our website to learn more about past projects, as well as upcoming needs. You can give a general donation or earmark your contribution to a specific activity or project you would like to support, perhaps even something you heard about in this very episode. All of this humanitarian work is carried out by our nonprofit mission, Better Burma. Any donation you give on our Insight Myanmar website is directed towards this fund. Alternatively, you can also visit the Better Burma website, betterburma.org, and donate directly there. In either case, your donation goes to the same cause, and both websites accept credit card. You can also give via PayPal by going to paypal.me/betterburma. Additionally, we can take donations through Patreon, Venmo, GoFundMe, and Cash App. Simply search Better Burma on each platform and you'll find our account. You can also visit either website for specific links to these respective accounts or email us at info@betterburma.org. That's Better Burma, one word, spelled BETTERBURMA.org. If you would like to give in another way, please contact us. We also invite you to check out our range of handicrafts that are sourced from vulnerable artisan communities across Myanmar, available at alokacrafts.com. Any purchase will not only support these artisan communities, but also our nonprofit's wider mission. That's Aloka Crafts, spelled ALOKACRAFTS, one word, alokacrafts.com. Thank you so much for your kind consideration and support.
What about Yarananga Unyana, Daduya, Danandari Ganizadamana, we got a Besayana, Besayo. Oba Yarananda, Dayananga, Yaranaya, Dayanamboda, Yaranam.